everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coast Connections. Today we're going to be connecting with the music therapy that's taking place around the world and how it is helping people find inner harmony and peace in their lives, and also other healing that happens both physically, mentally, spiritually. And tonight in particular, we're going to be looking at music therapy in a war zone. And our guest tonight is a certified music therapist, Dr. Alpha Woodward. Welcome to Coast Connections, Alpha.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm pleased to be here.
Very nice to have you here safe and sound. You've had quite an interesting life. Music has taken you on many, many roads.
It definitely has done that, yes.
Yes. How did music therapy find you? Are you a musician at heart? Have you always played instruments? Or how did you choose that as your profession?
Well, that's a really good question, Elizabeth. It found me. And when I was growing up and learning music and really immersed in music and heading for either teaching or performing, those were the only two things that were available to you when you were, at my age at that time. Music therapy wasn't around. And so I was in my early 40s when I first heard about music therapy. And it was like an aha. This is for me, because I didn't choose to be I wasn't good enough to be a performer. I was a recitalist, but how far can you go with that? And I wasn't interested in teaching. But what I was really interested in was connecting with others. And music therapy just seemed to check off all those dots. And I felt like I was called to it. And I think that most music therapists might say the same thing, that they feel called to do music in this way. Mm-hmm. It's their calling in life.
And it's a rather unique profession because, as you mentioned, you were one of the first, and that was through Capilano University, the first in Canada, and was it one of the first in the world as well to be actually certified, accredited?
It wasn't the first in the world. The Americans had a jump on us there. They started in about the 50s and the 60s. Our first training started in 1977 at Capilano at the time. So yes, it would be one of the first in the world, but we can't claim that.
You were an early starter anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Music therapy, what makes it therapeutic to the human body and mind? What exactly is going on in the brain to stimulate change and make a difference in a person's life and calm them, ground them?
That's an interesting way to ask how music therapy works.
We're going to have a neurologist on soon.
There's a lot to unwrap with that question, I have to say. But if let's just think about the brain for a moment. All the other domains and aspects of human life aside, let's just think about the brain. And the brain has, it's interesting how we can't think about the brain without also thinking about how the ear processes sound. And if we think of our whole body as a central processing unit for sound, because we're one giant ear, music is vibration, we are vibration. We cannot escape that reality of ourselves. So when we think about the physics of music and the physics of being human,
right?
There is an undeniable connection there. And so when sound is processed through the ear has a magnificent mechanism for discerning different pitches, different vibrations, different pulses, all the different aspects that come with sound alone, never mind music.
Right.
It's digesting all that, and it's firing off all these, changing that mechanical energy into electrical energy, and then sending it off to the brain, and the brain's parceling it off in different places. So it's a difficult question to answer, but it does explain why we are so profoundly impacted by music. Mm-hmm. Because when you think of all the different elements that go with music, the melody, the harmonies, the pitches, the pulses, all of those different driving forces that are in music, all of those are being processed in the brain. And the brain is lighting up all over the place. So sound and music in particular tends to lighten up and enliven the brain like nothing else.
A huge dopamine rush. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we have the input from the body as well. So all this sensorial input is impacting how we respond to music.
And you're also building new neurons while you're listening to it or performing as well. So it's restorative and also developmental for the brain.
It's definitely has an impact on neuroplasticity,
Yeah.
and which is the connectivity of the brain. So those neurons are busy firing off,
Yeah.
connecting with each other. And it's one of the reasons why you often hear people say, well, yeah, they have aphasia, they had a stroke, they can't speak, but they can sing. And so a lot of that is about how the brain is bypassing certain areas and reconnecting in others. And so it's a phenomenon we see all the time in music therapy, is that where one ability might fail, we can regain that in another way, and music is often the way to do that.
And some people with Alzheimer's or dementia, they actually just come to life when they hear music, and otherwise they were, quite withdrawn or, as you say, not speaking. But they go back to the music of their youth, and all of a sudden, boom, those neurons are fired up, and they're right there with you in the moment.
They are.
It's a beautiful thing to see.
It is such a wonderful experience to work with people who have dementia or Alzheimer's. Because of that, that person is still whole in some way.
Yes.
And it's sometimes the only avenue to access that.
They're still there.
They're still there.
Yeah.
They're still there.
Now, Alpha, does it matter if you are, or is it more effective if you are singing the music, or if you're just listening to the music, or if you're actually performing with an instrument? Is there a difference in how therapeutic that might be for different applications?
It's a really good question. I would say yes. yes. Music therapists work primarily 4 different ways with music, and one is compositionally, like we'll write songs. Somebody might need to express something, and songwriting is the best way to do that, and so writing the song and then singing it. In some cases they can't sing, so the therapist might sing it for them, but it's their words coming back to them. It's very powerful. I would say that another way that we work with patients and clients is improvisationally, and that's being in the moment with them. And for instance, a drumming circle is one way to do that. But improvisationally, it allows people to be in the moment, and well, any kind of improvisation is in the moment. You're on the fly.
Yeah, that's right.
And you don't have to have musical background to be improvisational. The other way that we work with clients is through using familiar music, which, choirs, any kind of community event, or, putting on a performance, for instance, using pre-composed music. Something that means something to the client. There's special memories attached to it, or feelings attached to it. And then another way is through receptive listening, which is something you mentioned. Receptive listening can be so beneficial to people. It's not passive at all. It's very, very active. Active listening is something special, especially if you're listening with somebody. And because listening to music can bring up imagery and memories.
Yeah.
And so having a conversation about that is something that we can do as well. Yeah.
So take us to your experience there in a post-war zone in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And you were there with War Child UK, a charity that is there to help children through the huge, horrible distresses of wartime that they have to go through, orphans, you know, lost parents, terrible injuries, PTSD. What was that like for you entering that post-war era?
It was an amazing experience. And let me unwrap that a little bit as well, because I was minding my own business, doing my work in Vancouver as a music therapist working in a long-term care facility. And, and there was this opening that came up in Bosnia and Herzegovina for a team of music therapists who were working there since 1998.
Wow.
They hadn't been there for that long. It was a rotational basis.
Mm-hmm.
Every so often they had to rotate out. So a rotation came up, and it was for the field director for this team. By then I had my master's degree in music therapy. And I was feeling drawn, magnetized to working in a situation that called music therapy to I thought its true purpose. Its true purpose in music or any of the arts, the true purpose is the glue of culture, the glue of humanity. And I thought, how visionary was this to actually establish music therapy in a post-war region of such horrific, brutal war that it was. And so what it was like for me was terrifying to go to a country I didn't know the language, I didn't know the culture, I didn't know that much about the war except what we'd been blasted with on TV.
Right.
So for me it was one of those times I just could not say no.
Mm-hmm.
I completely had to say yes to go. And yes, what that was like was terrifying because I didn't know what I was getting into.
And what a huge contrast from working in long-term care in Vancouver, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, to bombed out Bosnia and Herzegovina. Like, that's just, and seeing that for the first time, it's one thing to see it on TV and in the news coverage, it's another to actually get there and live in that.
You're so right. I was not expecting that impact.
You needed music therapy yourself.
I did. I was glad I was the age I was when I went, because I had enough life experience that I didn't feel ungrounded. I was pretty grounded, but I turned the corner walking down the street. I was just, because parts of the city that I was in had already been rebuilt.
This was Sarajevo?
No, this is south of Sarajevo, Mostar.
Right, yes.
So Mostar had, and a lot of the cities had been already rebuilt. The homes had been rebuilt, the roofs had been put back on by the international community. And so, but there was still a lot around where I was, a lot of crumbled buildings. But the downtown part I did not see because I had arrived in the dark of night and I went right into work. A couple of days later, I walked downtown to the center of town, and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. It was so visceral. I could almost hear the blasts of the bombs. That's how difficult it was to see. And after a while you get, oh, there's a tree growing out of that building. And after a while you get used to it. Your system, your central nervous system starts to say this is all normal.
Right.
Which is very...
How quickly
how quickly you do that.
Normalize that.
But yeah, most of us don't get that experience.
And as you say, you were glad you were the age you were, but those young children who this is all they knew in their young lives, how they were impacted by that, and how your music therapy helped them in ways that we will never understand because we've never been in that situation. But how were these children presenting Alpha at the time? What types of melodies or disturbed things were they presenting with?
There was a range.
Yeah.
There was a range. Most of the children we worked with had behavioral difficulties.
Yes.
These were children who were also living in homes where the parents had either lost a loved one, been harmed themselves, had lived through horrific, traumatic experiences themselves, and were at an age where they were they would process it differently than with the children, but they held on to their grudge, their grief. And so what was difficult was the children who could be more resilient didn't have an opportunity to get beyond that because they were held by the secondary PTSD. So a lot of the children had secondary PTSD. Some of the children had primary PTSD as well because they had actually experienced it.
Right.
We worked with children, for instance, who had been born during the war and had shaken baby syndrome because the mother would shake the baby really, really, really hard and not realize that what they were doing.
Right.
They were so traumatized themselves.
Yes.
There were a lot of children who had special needs, who had been stigmatized. A lot of the children, okay, this is complex, but a lot of the children who had special needs because of the war.
Sure.
The parents, there was poor health system. The parents were anxious and upset, very anxious and very nervous. So the babies were being born into very difficult situations, and some of them, especially with poor health care. So there was very poor maternal health during pregnancies. And so we had a lot of children who were special needs as well and had trauma.
Wow.
And the interesting thing about this area was that there was a lot of stigma around special needs or about getting therapy. But for some reason, because it was music therapy, it was okay. Music was very special and very important in that culture. It seemed to be in the DNA, this particular folk music. It was lovely to see. For me, it was one of those things that was diametrically opposed to the horrors of what people had been through, was that wherever you went, people would be singing these songs.
Wow, amidst the ruins.
Amidst the ruins.
Yeah, wow, powerful.
It was very, very powerful, yeah.
So there you are, one of the Pied Pipers that, that rolled into this war zone. And you had summer camps for these children, a place for them to just be a child, be children, have fun, play. What types of activities did you have them do that involved music to help sort of draw them out and help regulate them and remind them what it's like to be a child?
Those summer camps were wonderful. Now, I have to be clear and say we didn't run those summer camps. We ran all year round.
Okay.
And we took the summer off because everybody got out of town. It was so hot. They went to the coast. Everything closed down. But in the summertime, we had this magnificent composer from Scotland. His name was Nigel Osborne. And he was like a superhero. He was like Brian Eno. He was like David Bowie. And whenever he came to town, he was like the Pied Piper himself. And so he would bring with him students from Scotland who were music students or in community music programs. And they would fundraise all year long to pay for their trip down. And then they would run this summer camp for a week.
Wow.
And so it was only a week long, but we would go to the coast, and the busloads of children from our area would go down, and we'd also include children from the coast as well. And so what we did was engage in writing a mini musical. And so we'd be in little groups, and we would be composing, creating songs in
Which
each
kids
of our
love
groups.
to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and there'd be a theme that we would all follow.
Yeah.
And Nigel would be kind of guiding that vision. And then at the end of the week, we would all perform. So it was really wonderful to see the kids actually contributing to the creation of the song, contributing to the words, contributing to making decisions about how they were going to enact their part.
Right.
So it wasn't like it was scripted and given to them. It was something we all
They were
worked on.
creating.
Very collaborative. Yes.
Yeah.
Very collaborative.
And then to see these children emerging from these shell-shocked bodies, that must have been something so beautiful to see.
It was.
Yeah.
It was, and it's something that just doesn't happen overnight. Because our program had been operating for a few years, we could see that they owned this. They felt really that this was theirs, and they felt very confident in themselves. And music therapy had a lot to do with that. Our program was one of the very few things that was available for them.
Yeah.
And it was, I think I can't stress enough that we think often of taking a pill and making things better, or listening to a piece of music and suddenly everything's okay. But in a situation like this, you have to understand how long it takes to heal the wound of that war, that terrible, terrible war, and the things that happened over it. It takes time. And so over time we could see these children growing in confidence and really being open and accepting. It was wonderful to see.
Beautiful. And I understand that the cellist of Sarajevo was also present at one of your gigs, shall we say?
Yes, he was there for one of the summers that I was there, yes. He was. He also gave back. He had a special relationship with Nigel, who I've talked about already. And Nigel was a person who, when he heard about the cellist, he had written an adagio for him.
Oh, wow.
And he took it in person down to him and crawled underneath the tunnels or whatever he had to do and delivered it to him in person.
Wow.
And sat with him in the square while snipers shot all around them.
Unbelievable.
So unbelievable. Yeah, and he was the one, he was a large part of how the cellist escaped out of Bosnia as well.
Verdon Smilovic?
Vedran Smilovic.
Yeah, he now lives in Northern
Ireland.
Yeah.
Ireland, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And you also got to meet Prince Charles while you were there. We've only got a few minutes left.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah.
Time is gone, yes. Yes. The first year that I was there, it was really exciting because they were building the old bridge that had been built in 1566 by Hayrudin. And it had been blown up during the war. Over the course of the years, it had stood the test of time. But eventually the 76th missile, I think, crashed it into the river below.
Wow.
And so when the war ended, they rebuilt the bridge. The international community came and dredged up the pieces from the river. And it was that plus all the other architecture that was being rebuilt at the time that brought dignitaries from around the world. And His Royal Highness Prince Charles was interested in architecture, and he was very interested in music as well. And so those were two things that enticed him over to Bosnia in July when they reopened the bridge.
Very nice.
And so he came to visit us at the Pavarotti Music Center, and I got to be his host, which was quite special.
That's quite an honor.
Yes, it was.
You also brought with us, with you today, a lovely mural picture of famous hands, people that came to your place there. Yeah.
Pavarotti Music Center, yes.
Yeah. And his prints are on there.
His handprint is there as well, yes.
And the Prince Charles is on there.
Pavarotti's handprint is there. Pavarotti was there for the opening of it. The community just revered Pavarotti. He was a superstar.
Yeah.
So when he
Beautiful
came to open
soul.
it, yes, it was very special.
We only have just a little bit of time left here, Elf. It's gone so quickly. But coming back from that experience must have been quite difficult for you to reintegrate back into, our Western world. What was that like for you? And
it was difficult.
Yeah.
I didn't want to come back. I was really, at first I was really in love with the culture that I had moved to. I became...
you were there 4 years.
I was there for very close to 4 years.
Yeah.
And I came to love the people. I had good friends there. In the end, I realized it wasn't practical. So I took my time coming back, and it was difficult because there's not too many people who can relate to the experiences that you've had.
Yeah.
So
did music therapy help you to reintegrate?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
I did seek out my own music therapy in the form of guided imagery and music, which is another.
And that's work that you continue to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is.
Have you been back to Bosnia and Herzegovina?
I have. Well, I did. I went back while I was doing my doctorate. I went back to do some pilot projects while I was there. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Any closing thoughts that you have here just before we wrap up?
I think what I'd like to say is that, music therapy at one time was so unusual. People had no idea what it was. More and more people know what it is now, but they don't know how to access it. So I'd say go to one of the many sites that there are and research it, look it up. MTABC, the Music Therapy Association of BC, we have several fine music therapists, several hundreds of music therapists who are really fine, and I would check it out if you're curious.
How it might be applied to our own lives, or loved ones that we have in care, that type of thing. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful gift with people in such dire need in the world. It just helps the whole fabric of the world heal better, and music really is the universal language and the universal medicine. So you're not just a PhD doctor, you're a doctor of the heart and soul as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. How kind.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure to have you here. And we look forward to following up with you on other experiences that you might have to share in the months ahead regarding your music therapy as well. And
thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today, and check out some of the websites that we have here on the screen and learn more about music therapy and how it might help your heart and soul and your family, friends that might be in need of some TLC and some emotional support. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again on Coast Connections. Take good care.